What's up, guys? WhoNeedsMeta here, and today I wanted to talk a little bit about ignition effect priority. Essentially, there are two different versions of ignition priority, one before 2007 and one after 2007. So a lot of GOAT players get kind of confused going to Edison and vice versa. The hard date, we believe, is Troop Dupe format, so that would be the March 2007 ban list to win these two different versions of priority would have changed. Thankfully, there's really only one very small interaction that could dissuade for that format. So if it does end up being perfect circle format, there isn't really an effective difference because the biggest one is, like I have here, the scenarios ring and breaker, and thankfully in March of 07 and September 07, one of the two is banned. So the only real interaction that would be difference would be Dark World, Dealings, and Malicious, and obviously that's really not going to happen. So thankfully, we can just ballpark it in 2007 and go from there because there isn't too many scenarios. If there are some, please drop them in the comments. I would love to know some of the crazy shenanigans that people come up with that actually would be relevant in competitive play. But we'll go over the differences between the two types of priority and how GOAT and Edison and beyond use different priority, and then we'll talk about 2012 and when that all changed. So just really quickly, I'd like to do a quick explanation on what ignition priority is. If you're a newer player and you didn't play before the 2012 ruling change, essentially if a player has a set back row, a set monster here on the left side, a player on the right side could summon Blackluster Soldier and use its effect to banish this card as Chainlink 1 before that player on the left could respond with Bottomless Trapple. So essentially be Chainlink 1, Chainlink 2 Bottomless gets removed, and then the monster would get banished as well. And then after 2012, it was YCS Long Beach was the last, I believe the last event with priority where we would be allowed to do this going forward, which was in March of 2012. And then in April, at the end of the month, they said, we're not going to allow that anymore. You do not retain priority to activate ignition effect as Chainlink 1. And now we're going to talk about when you have that priority from early on in the game, so prior to 2007, and then we'll talk about when you have it after 2007. So prior to Troop Dupe format in 2007, if a player, you essentially retain turn player priority to activate an ignition effect when a monster is summoned or the resolution of a chain. This is a GOAT format ruling for the most popular format of that era, but this works for that in prior, so 2007 and prior. So let's say a player on the right has 1,900 life points left, and they summon Breaker the Magical Warrior, while this player on the left here has Ring of Destruction. So they have Ring of Destruction here set. So they summon Breaker, and the effect, or the summon on summon effect, the trigger effect to add a counter activates. So they would add a counter. On the resolution of a chain, they have priority to use the ignition effect of Breaker to pop a back row, which removes for cost, thus lowering its attack points. So there is no scenario other than the player on the right choosing not to use Breaker's effect on resolution to where they could burn with Ring for game, because Ring counts the attack points on the field. So essentially, there is no scenario here. So player on the right has ignition priority on the resolution of the effect of Breaker to destroy a back row before the player on the left has the right to respond. Now they also have the right to respond as Chainlink 2 on the add of the counter, but because it would destroy it as Chainlink 1, it would only do 1,600 points of damage and not 19, therefore missing lethal. So how does this ruling change affect the game going forward? So after that ruling change, let's say player on the right here wants to summon Armageddon Knight and use its effect to send Destiny Hero Malicious to the graveyard. Now, the last thing to happen was not the summon of a monster. It was the resolution of a chain. So that player on the right here it opens essentially the game state up to speed spell 2 effects and higher. There are no ignition effects that can be activated by the turn player in this scenario because they do not have ignition priority on the resolution of a chain like they would in GOAT format and prior to 2007. So that's the big ruling. So the player on the left here could activate the effect of Deity Crow and banish Malicious before the turn player has priority to activate that effect. And lastly, that will take us to where we are today, where say a player on the left here has Effect Veiler. Prior to April of 2012, a player could be able to summon Rescue Rabbit, use its effect to banish it as Chainlink 1 before the non-turn player could use Effect Veiler. Now, If the turn player summons Rescue Rabbit, the non-turn player can activate the effect of Effect Veiler, targeting Rescue Rabbit, discarding it for cost, and therefore Rescue Rabbit, while they could activate the effect, it would resolve negated, and no monsters would be summoned from the deck. That's going to be it for this one, guys. If you guys have any other weird ruling history questions you would like to ask, feel free to do so down in the comments. Be sure to like and subscribe for more retro format content, and thanks for watching, guys.